Back here on Friday morning, GameDaySportsRadio.com. Boji Wood back with you. Appreciate Coach Travis Everhart visiting with us in that last segment, giving us a little bit of preview into some of the new rule changes for college football that's being proposed for 2023 right now. Let's bring in Mike Bernard from OTM Sports out in Las Vegas. Mike, how are you doing on this Friday morning? Kind of chilly up here in North Alabama. What's it like in the desert out there?
Actually, I'm just south of you. I'm in Birmingham today.
Oh, okay.
So a little bit nippy too. And hey, I know that the NCAA doesn't listen to a handicapper from Las Vegas, but I have a proposal. How about we go to the 12-team playoff next year and not wait?
How about we just go to the 16-team playoff next year? And not wait?
How did I know?
That's
I should
what
have known
I
that
say.
was coming.
Yeah, exactly. That's it doesn't matter. I'm never backing off the 16-team playoff. That's what it needs to be. But hey, now you're more of an NFL guy than I am, even though I'm sitting here with an NFL hat on today. But now this is one rule change in the NFL that needs to take place because there's no consistency in this process. It's just not really a rule. It's just a process that the NFL has. Let's say inside the 2-minute warning of each half that the clock stops after a first down. How about that for the NFL?
Yeah, they won't do that because it mimics college. For the longest time, college didn't want to go overboard and copy NFL. Remember, college football, these games would last 7 hours if they didn't make this change. But remember, the clock would stop every single time the runner went out of bounds. Now they started on ready for play, thank goodness, because literally we would have 5-hour games if they hadn't gone to that.
Yeah, it's funny. It's sort of like they depend upon each other so much for a variety of things. But, college, 1 foot in's good enough, and pro, you got to have 2. I mean, it would, in my mind, a lot of things should be uniform. But, last week, the divisional games, some of those games were I thought were phenomenal, fun to watch, and I think we've got the best 4 teams left in the league right now, and the Niners and the Eagles, they're going to kick things off Sunday 3 p.m. on Fox. The Niners now, after hosting, they've got to travel cross country and take on Jalen Hurts and the Eagles there in Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia. Now, you may know this. Brock Purdy, the quarterback for the 49ers, was Mr. Irrelevant a few years ago. And for those of you who don't know, Mr. Irrelevant's the last man taken in the draft. But he's won 7 straight starts for the 49ers. Has there ever been a Mr. Irrelevant that has been in this type of spotlight before?
Not that I know of. The first thing that comes to mind is, how deep in the draft Tom Brady was drafted. And then you can go way back, back in your days when Bart Starr Bart Starr was drafted and Bear Bryant, the story is that Bear Bryant told Lombardi, hey, don't draft him.
Yeah. Well, these 2 teams squared off not too long ago as Big 12 opponents. Say it's 2 teams, actually these 2 quarterbacks. They squared off not too long ago as Big 12 opponents. Brock Purdy, of course, at Iowa State. Jalen Hurts after he transferred to Oklahoma. But, that none of that really matters right now. All that matters is the teams that they have now. And, they're both on pretty good streaks. But listen, the 49ers have won 12 straight. You have to go all the way back to October the 23rd, the last time that they lost a game. But yet, all that being said, they're still underdogs going into Philadelphia.
Yeah, they're red hot. Purdy has plenty of weapons on offense. But let's face it, the strong suit of this team is their number 1 ranked defensive unit. Okay, so let's go back to the preseason. You had Garoppolo. Shanahan says, he's not going to be our guy. we're going to go with Trey Lance, which, by the way, in my opinion, if Trey Lance doesn't get hurt and they have him, they're not in this position. Mm-hmm. And then so Garoppolo comes in, the team rallies around him. They go on a good run. He gets hurt. Lance is already hurt and knocked out. So you bring in the third string guy. And, right now they're the number one defense, and Brock Purdy is not making mistakes. Right behind the Niners defensively is number 2, Philadelphia. So basically home field advantage makes the Eagles a small favorite here.
Yeah, you kind of alluded to Tom Brady earlier. Brock Purdy is kind of taking a page out of Brady's playbook, because Brady was standing on the sideline holding a clipboard until Brent Bledsoe went down. And then, of course, the Patriots then went on that unbelievable run with Brady. Now, San Francisco, they only give up 16 points per game, and they're scoring 26 a clip. So they're very well balanced. Not a big disparity there.
No, they are well balanced. And, Shanahan, he's tagged with offensive guru, and he is. But when you look at, and they score a lot of points, but look at what his defenses have done.
Yeah, and D'Amico Ryans, defensive coordinator, hot name right now in the NFL, former Alabama linebacker. And, even if it's not this year, I think he's interviewed for 3 jobs this year. But even if it's not this year, he's going to be an NFL coach.
Yeah, the Broncos and some other teams are very interested in him. And, you got to give him credit. When you watch him on the sideline and all the reports, he's liked in the locker room, but just as important, he's respected there. When I look at this game, Coach, I really like how the Eagles are built. It's no secret how much I appreciate and love watching Jalen Hurts. But I found a 3 a couple of days ago, and I knew that I didn't feel like Philadelphia was going to go to past 3. So I just did a numbers play on San Fran, simply due to the number. And also the point spread tells me that the Niners find a way to win this game.
Speaking of the point spread, it's a little different than a lot of people thought it would be. And we're talking about Cincinnati at Kansas City, the 6:30 game. That one's going to be on CBS. Of course, it's a rematch from last year. And again, the big question is Patrick Mahomes. And there's no way that I think he doesn't suit up and try to play. But if he can play, just how effective can he be? That high ankle sprain, those things are awful to try to recover from. And Joe Burrow, though, he put it on the Bills last Sunday and had a swagger about him. All this talk about how his offensive line was decimated and they wouldn't be able to hold up well. Well, he stood back there in the pocket like a statue. And again, I can't wait for this rematch. I just wish that Mahomes was healthy so we would see both quarterbacks at 100%.
So many question marks surrounding this game. You mentioned that Cincinnati offensive line. As handicappers, the guys in our office, we were looking at it and saying, he was sacked a lot last year. In fact, he was sacked 7 times in the Super Bowl, and they only lost by 3. Mm-hmm. And so Joe Cool, that's what they call him up there. He's accustomed to running for cover. Mm-hmm. And, our guys here in the office, we're trying to find out how limited is Mahomes going to be, because he's going to be limited. Mm-hmm. If you've ever tried to compete with a high ankle sprain, sometimes it takes 2 months for those to get to 80, 90%. Mm-hmm. So we're working on that. And, the ankle sprain is going to affect Mahomes because so much of his game is escaping and improvising.
Yeah, they're both quarterbacks are very adept at moving around and moving the pocket. They just do it in different ways. Joe Burrow is more of a subtle type guy, a quick move here, a way to step up into the pocket. And Mahomes is more like, as you have described him many times, he's a point guard playing football is basically what he is. And that is that's the most exciting part of his game. That's when he makes his biggest plays happen. And with that high ankle sprain, he's just not going to have that type of the mobility that he usually does. You look at the season, he threw for 41 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. Many thought that his numbers would drop when Tyreek Hill left for Miami, but he actually threw for more yards and touchdowns. And the only person that really suffered this year with lack of production was Tyreek Hill down in Miami.
True.
Burrow, 36 touchdowns and also 12 picks. But, he's ran for 5 touchdowns, but he's not really known as a runner. Now, this is a fact that during research that surprised me. Joe Burrow is 3-0 against the Chiefs. Now, all 3 wins are close by a field goal, but at the same time, he won as the underdog in all 3 matchups.
Yeah, and a lot's been said of that in the national media. And, at this point, Coach, you can speak to this better than I. But that's not going to really – bulletin board material, does it even matter in the AFC championship game?
That's one of those things where the more mature that your team is, the less it's paid attention to. We have an old saying in the locker room that lions don't pay attention to sheep, and that's what you're looking at.
Yeah, that's kind of my thinking too. Is and it's not like Joe Burrow is out there saying, "Hey, we own Kansas City. We're going to start charging us property taxes." That's not the case. It's the media. Mm-hmm. But we've seen Saban. He'll take something benign and innocuous and go tell his team that the world's against them, and they buy in. So, it's worth mentioning, but I don't think it's going to matter.
Yeah.
And one reason it won't matter is because the Bengals don't give a flip. Okay. I mean, they're on one of the best runs of all time in the NFL. The last 2 years, they're 27-12 against the spread. So what does that tell you? That tells you they've been to the Super Bowl and the AFC title game back-to-back, and they're outperforming the market. So not only are they winning the big games, they're covering 69% of those, which is absolutely phenomenal. So when you're down to the Final Four of the NFL, we're not going to find line mistakes. We're not going to find big edges. It comes down to information and basically old school handicapping. On Tuesday, the Bengals went up to 2.5. I bet Kansas City because I felt strongly they weren't going to go to 3. Okay. So I simply bet it based off the number. Now the game is pick and Kansas City's won. Last year, a very similar situation, not in the AFC title game, but we had Kansas City over Buffalo, not because we thought Buffalo was a better team. And Buffalo certainly had them beat. But Patrick Mahomes and his Chiefs found a way to come back and win. And they shouldn't have won, but they did. Now, there's so many unknowns in this game, mainly how healthy is Mahomes going to be. So I don't have a strong opinion. I've got the ticket on Kansas City plus 2.5. But I'm telling you, if Kansas City goes to 2.5 between now and game time, I might play the other side and try to middle.
Listen, the only true question about this is how effective can Mahomes be? That's the only question, about this game. And I know absolutely nothing about handicapping, but I've been around you long enough to know when I see a line drop as it has, that somebody knows something. And that just tells me that Patrick Mahomes is his doorman is told somebody who's told somebody, and he's walking around in a boot or what have you. But to me, it's going to be hard for me to go against Cincinnati and Joe Burrow, knowing that Mahomes is not going to be 100%.
Yeah. It is, and it's that's why if I can get Cincinnati plus the number and try, it won't be a high percentage middle just because there's too many uncertainties. Now, the other thing that you can do in this game is I feel like this would be a good in-game situation. So if you can play in-game, which you can in 30-plus states, If you can play in game, watch the game, the first couple of possessions, and you might be able to get a good indication of how the game's going to go.
Yeah. All right. Now, Mike, I mentioned early on, I thought that these are the best 4 teams in the league. Would you agree with that?
Well, here's the thing. Okay. I do. Sometimes we can get in this situation, and I would say these aren't the best 4 teams, even though they're here. But prior to the playoffs, I would have said that I would have had Buffalo ranked ahead of Cincinnati. But hey, we saw Cincinnati just go up and thump them. So I do believe this is the best 4 teams in the league. That's what the league wants. That's what the networks want.
Yeah. And how many teams are in the NFL playoffs? NCAA, are you listening now? I mean, maybe that's the way we need to go here. But, well, I might. We appreciate your time. You have a great weekend. We'll be back on Monday morning with you to discuss these 2 games and look forward to the Super Bowl a couple of weekends down the road.
Absolutely. Enjoyed it, Coach.
Always here. Now, Mike, as we wind down our football season coverage, what are we looking at down the road here with Mike Bernard for the next, say, few weeks, few months here on Game Day Sports Radio?
What we're going to do is once we get into February, we're going to, Saturday is the biggest day of the week in college basketball. Mm-hmm. Thursday's big, Wednesday's big, but Saturday's the biggest days. There's 150 games on a Saturday. So what we'll do is we'll put together a report, maybe look at the tournament contenders and the top 25, and you and I will run them down each week.
I was going to say, it's weird talking to you 2, 3, 4 times a week during football season. Then kind of football season's over with, we kind of drop off the map. But we'll get some basketball stuff. Look forward to having you back on during, especially during March Madness. I always like our March Madness time, but we'll get going even before then.
Absolutely. Look forward to it.